So let's this vlog number, I don't know, 7 is it? I don't know. Let's take a look at what I have done so far. Now, just to recap, I know it'd be repetitions a lot if you've been watching my previous video, but this I'll give you the specific dates. The 14th of August, I had my PSA initially taken, and it was at 124.2. That was the one that set everything in motion, because now I realized something was off. The 11th of September, just shy of 1 month later, I was at 97.47. This is based on a full month on some really heavy antibiotics, because I had prostatitis. It might be the reason why it had been so inflated. Now, retrospectively, that is silly. I mean, the PSA does get elevated if you have issues like benign prostate hyperplasia, or you have prostatitis or similar, but it doesn't get inflated to that level. Maybe the doctor just wanted to see what it was all about. Anyway, 11th of September, 97.47. Then the 9th of October, just a month later, I had not spent much time doing much, but just researching and kind of absorbing the information that I had cancer and that I needed to do something about it, but I didn't know what. So the 9th of October, I measured it again, and without having done any changes to my diet or anything, and I was just at the beginning of my carnivore diet, I was at 120.2. So this was without any action. Now, I decided that instead of just sitting idle doing nothing, I wanted to see what I could do. And since this was a very new topic for me, obviously my research was not that extended. So I basically just grabbed more or less what I came across as being potentially good, and then I would research it as I was going along with it, because none of it was toxic, none of it was dangerous per se. So the 6th of November, which is yet another month has gone by, I had brought it down to 93.49. So that was doing what I did myself. That is a drop of 22.2%. So now I already had the biopsy done, and I followed up with the PSA scan, and I thought I was going to have a meeting mid-January to get the result of that, but the doctor had time basically more or less right away. So I already the 27th of December had my result, and in order to be as prepared as possible, I had my PSA measured the 22nd of December. So this is 1.5 months after my previous measurement, and now it was down to 78.71, and that is a drop of 15.8%. That is pretty good drops. How did I do that? Well, as I said, initially I just started off with things that are common knowledge. If you're talking cancer, you want to create an acidic environment for your cancer. So every morning I have a morning ritual. I'll just get one thing, just a minute. Every morning I have my morning ritual, and it consists of mixing up 1 bottle of water, something like this. Well, actually I got it right here, so you can see that. 1 bottle of water, and in this one here I put a homemade mix of potassium, magnesium, and salt. It's Himalayan salt, and that's just to get some electrolyte. That's because of my diet. I'm only, predominantly anyway, eating animal products, so I need to make sure I get enough salt and potassium. So I mix that in the morning, but I add 1 spoon of apple cider vinegar, and then I just to make it a little bit more palatable, I add 1 little sachet of stevia sweetener, because I don't want any calories, I don't want any sugar. And on top of that, I have some nice lemons here, not from our own garden, but we have a neighbor who has them, so we just go pick them when we want them. Very juicy, very good, very fresh, and I squeeze about 1/3 of a lemon in my drink. So that's mandatory every morning. Adding to that, I get myself 1 cup of tea, hot tea, simple and easy. That is my morning brew. In that tea, I always add 1 teaspoon of date syrup. Now, not only does it give me that daily little bit of sugar kind of thing, but it is a brilliant antibiotics, and it has a very low glycemic level. So it doesn't spike your insulins like any other sugar might do and want to do. So it probably has the same properties like honey would have had. But I really like this one, and no, I cannot remember all the details of it. When I did research it, I found it to be a really, really good ingredients. So that's what I get in the morning. And then I add my tomato juice. Now, in the first period of time, I think I actually did cut it out for a while because I realized it contained sugar. But then you have to evaluate what do you want. Cut out glycopene, which is the active ingredients in this one here, which is good against the cancer. Or do you want to take the sugar and get it? I take my tomato juice 1 glass a day in the morning. Furthermore, I have read that roasted pumpkin seeds are really good. The studies, I'll see if I can find it, put a link about it, but the study said that it was about 25 grams to 30 grams a day, which was really good. And the studies also showed that though it was still better than nothing to eat more than 25 grams, then there was actually a decrease in effect the more you ate. So it's not like the more the merrier. And that actually goes for a lot of things as far as I have come to learn. It is not the more the merrier. That does not apply always. So I get 1 of these bags during the day, very often in the morning if I'm sitting by the computer and doing some work. So that's a very specific morning ritual, which says, gives me some of the important bits. Then I also do get CBD oil. Now this one here is a 30% full spectrum. Initially, the first month, I only got one without the THC, with it, not a full spectrum, it was just a pure CBD oil. But I had the opportunity to get my hands on a full spectrum at a favorable price, and I kind of figured that if you get the whole plant, there might be some added benefit to that compared to having this very distilled version of the pure CBD oil. So that's my approach. I don't have the scientific numbers or anything to back it up, but that's what I do. And I take, of this 30% CBD full spectrum oil, I take 4 drops every day under the tongue, let it be there for a minute, swallow it, that's it. So, but like I said, initially I was not doing the full spectrum one. I got that later, so I was doing the one with the oil, and I actually had a period of time where I stopped doing it altogether. Can't remember the reason, but there was a reason for sure. Now, the reason why I'm saying beginning I did this is because there was a 22% drop in the first period of my attempts, and there was only a 15.8% drop in the second period. Now, there might be reasons for that, very legit reasons, but let's get into that in a minute. As far as supplement goes, I've just been winging it, I have to be honest. One thing though that I did not just wing it is various turmeric solutions here. Now there we got some with curcumin and ginger. Obviously if you got turmeric, you got curcumin because that's part of turmeric. But the black pepper is very important in order for the curcumin to be absorbed in your body. So that's important. This one has got garlic and ginger as well. I have to say about these supplements here, I'm using it because I have it and because I spent top dollar for it, but I won't be using it once I'm done with it. I mean, once they're empty. Then I will be having my own, I'll make my own capsules with my own turmeric organic, and I will have it with my own mixture of salt in it. I don't need this because I made a check on it. I saw somebody saying that only 10% of all the supplement products actually contains the amount that they are advertising. So I took my supplements, and sure enough, I think I had 10 different versions on my table, and it was 1 or 2 that one was there and one was approximately there, but the rest was just so much off that nothing added up. So And at the end of the day, it's not FDA regulated, so you don't really know what you get in these capsules here. You are running by the risk that they're just putting in worthless powder, or even worse, something that harms you. But curcumin, that is not something I need to explain too much for the people who's been into this business here. If you know curcumin, if you know cancer, you know that that is a very good and active ingredient. One of the first things I came across, because I had prostatitis and my urine flow was a little bit low, was saw palmetto. I haven't used that for over a month now, because I read somewhere that it could spike your PSA levels a bit. But as I have now been through this process for 3 or 4 months, I realized that that might be true. But when you are up in 3 digits or 2 digits numbers, I don't think saw palmetto makes that much of a difference. But it might be a good difference in terms of your urine flow. So I will start using this one again. Then somebody mentioned to me mangosteen is good. I have yet to look into it. I have no idea why. I don't know what it does for you. But I bought on sale 5 of these, so I had for a few months. And so I'm taking it until I'm done. When I'm done, unless I find some really, really interesting information about it, they are out. Green tea. Green tea, I do have my morning tea. As I said, I prefer it the natural way, but there are days where I'm a bit too busy or I get out of the door before the green tea. And then I like to know that I at least can get these here. And they say that 1 capsule is the equal of 1 cup of tea. I don't know if that's true. I know that I take, even though I get my morning coffee, I get 2 of these every day. It's not the more the merrier, but I don't figure that a cup of tea extra would hurt anybody. Then we got pomegranate. It keeps popping up as a brilliant product. I even think I heard Joe Rogan mentioning it. I still have to do the extensive research on it. And one of those things that will also go out unless it really proves to be something special. And one of the reasons why it will go out unless it's really, really special is because, as another video also very well explained, is that the amount of value you get in 1 capsule, simply because there's only so much in a capsule, it maybe equals to 1/100th of a fruit. And in order to get the amount that you need, you have to have an enormous amount of capsules. And I think he was calculating several hundred years before you reach anything of effect. But there is something called an effect in combination with things. I don't know the English term for that, but when we have the sum of 2 things can be greater because of them than they are by themselves. So 1 + 1 is 2, but 1 + 1, because it's those 2, it becomes 3. And there might be an effect in combination of what else I'm doing. I don't know. So those are the supplements that I'm using. On top of that, then I did use a combination of ivermectin and fenbendazole in the first period. I took 3 days and I took 4 days off, 3 days, 4 days off. I think I saw somewhere that was the Joe Tippin's protocol. Later learned that while it might have been his protocol initially, then he changed it over time. So I changed it on the second period, fairly late in the second period actually, to use fenbendazole only, and I got fenbendazole every day, 300 milligrams. So those are the tablets. I got a whole bunch of them from India because they cost a fortune if you want to buy them in Thailand. Ivermectin in particular. Anyway, so I get 300 milligrams a day. Now I have stopped for 2 weeks now, and I did that because when I got my blood test back, the latest one, it showed some low numbers as far as my liver function goes apparently, and I was concerned that maybe it was because I was giving it too much drugs. But I don't think that's the case, so I will pick this up again. Fenbendazole, 300 milligrams a day. Adding on top of that, then I write down how much liquid or how much water I drink every day. I am very poor at drinking water, so I have to note it because otherwise I can go a full day with just a half a liter of water. And living in Thailand can be pretty hard, though not these days, as you might see. So water, I write it down, and I have to get at least 4 bottles of water. That equates to about 2.5 liters. That's what I need to have every day. It also helps me keep my blood pressure in check. A lot of people have a consensus that the cancers are a metabolic disease, And so blood pressure is obviously one thing you want to keep in check. Diabetes, you want to keep that in check. Obesity, you want to keep that in check. Cholesterol, you want to keep that in check. So that I do. Then twice a week I do ice bath. Ice bath where the water is between 6 and 7 degrees usually. Pour 2 big bags of ice in my little tub, and once the ice is melted, I get in there. I wait until the ice is melted. I have seen all these hardcore videos, and I did that myself as well, but it's too painful to jump in the water when the ice is still there. And I realized why. Well, you can have the bottom temperature in the ice tub to be at about 7 or 8 degrees, then the top centimeters or 5 centimeters at the top is at 0.5 degrees Celsius. It is excruciating cold. And there's no reason for that, because I don't think there's any therapeutic value in water that cold. So I'm taking 15 minutes. I've evolved into be able to do that. I take 15 minutes in my my cold plunge twice a week, every Tuesday, every Saturday, if it fits. Then obviously training. I have to do some training. So I've just started some fitness training, weightlifting. And I'm also doing my running every second day. That's what I plan to do. Typically run between 3 and 5 kilometers, that's it. Interval training, a little bit of HIIT training, high intensity interval training is really good, as they say. And if I'm going to be on ADT in the foreseeable future, I definitely want to be at as good a stage as possible when that starts. Other than that, nope. I do anything. Yes, I'm on carnivore diet. Carnivore diet basically just means that I predominantly eat animal products. Now, I've already shown you my date syrup, my apple cider vinegar, and my tomato juice. So I'm not all about just animal products, but I also have to take into consideration I'm battling something here that I really want to win. So I have to look at what the research says. So I do mix it up with a few other things. But I can see, to get to the drop the first time was 22.2%, while the drop after 1.5 further months, the other one was a drop for just a month, was only at 15.8. Now there might be two reasons for it. There's several reasons for it. First of all, it might just be like weight loss, easier to drop the first bit rather than the next bit. But the other thing is, I had a biopsy. And there seems to be people agreeing that it is not the most healthy thing to do to a cancer, to poke it with a needle and then grab sample out of it. It agitates it, and that could cause an increase in inflammation. It could cause an increase of your PSA levels. I don't know to what extent, but I, even after the biopsy, learned that they are even have a genuine fear that doing these biopsies manually, as they do right now, could cause a spread of it, because you could have some of the cancers seeping out of the needle or whatnot once it's pulled out of the prostate, and by that going to the bloodstream, and by that going to contaminate the body. And that just makes, today where we got PSMA and we got MRI and we got PSA levels, I mean, they do not need anything else in order to figure out whether you got cancer, whether it's a Gleason 8, 9 and 10. That is just a matter of how dangerous it is in terms of spread. But if you do have a PSMA scan and you can see you got full house in your prostate and you got 1 or 2 lymph node infected, you know for sure you have an 8, 9 or 10. And whether it's an 8 or it's a 10, doesn't really matter. At that point, you just got to treat it. So at this day and age, I don't understand why they're still doing it, except for the fact maybe it's just a matter of time. We have to adopt and we have to adjust, and it's only 2 years ago that FDA approved the PSMA PET scan test. So that's 2 reasons why it might have increased. But as far as things I can do, and the difference between first period and second period, I can see that on my diaries, is that I was very stringent about 2 things, which I have relaxed on later on. And one of them was intermittent fasting. I'm not really doing any of that. I'm eating if I'm hungry for it, and I'm not looking at the watch, and I'm all good and happy. And secondly, I also have been more relaxed on the sugars, on the carbs. Just no carbs really, but sugars. Sugars even worse. Cakes in particular, cookies. I mean, I got a place where I get my coffee, the really good cookies. And that happened after a full month of being very strict, only falling into the pit twice in a full month. And now I've got like twice a week. And the reason why that happened was because my research led me to the fact that contrary to normal cancers, then the prostate cancer does not thrive based on sugar. It is not surviving on the fermentation process like other cancers. And that all of a sudden means that sugar is not all that important. Obviously, it's a failed logic, because when you eat sugar, you have an increase of insulin levels. And if it's a regular cancer, so to speak, that insulin level is also a growth hormone. So it will provide the cancer some growth hormone, which is not very good. And if you are having a regular cancer, you get the sugar, which also feeds it. So it's a double slammy. By taking that away, you are depriving it of both the growth hormone and the food. But a prostate cancer, you don't give it food by giving it sugar, but you're still giving it growth hormone if you're taking sugar. So you still have one of the components that is dangerous by eating sugar that you give to the cancer. So I contribute more my less decline in the second period to those two factors. Intermittent fasting and fasting was implemented in the first period, and a very strict diet in terms of sugar, while that was more relaxed on the second one. But doing a drop at 15.8%, despite having those lapses, I think is very, very interesting. So yeah, that is how I am right now. I actually initially said in another video, I'm sure, that I wanted to do an experiment now without fenbendazole, because I wanted to use Artemisia annua, which I forgot to mention. I just received it 5 days ago, so it's a very recent thing. I started it after my my last PSA test, so it's not relevant for the test right now. But I wanted it to see whether the Artemisia annua can have a similar effective effect on the progress of the PSA or the declining of the PSA as fenbendazole has. But after the information I got from Mr. John from the Prostate Cancer Research Institute in the US, I decided I'm on a path that shows progress, positive progress. Why should I gamble with that? Whatever I do, I ain't gonna be able to perform a scientific paper on this one anyway, because I don't even know exactly how much is in this here. And there are so many variables in this, and then there's a day where I forget about it, and so on and so forth. So I think what I want to do is just continue the path I have, learn from the first period compared to the second period, and see what I changed, which I can adjust, like I said, intermittent fasting and sugar. And then I will continue with the fenbendazole now, and I will have that addition of the Artemisia annua. Try to look that up. It's got many words. It's got wormwood. I think it's called wormwood. That's another word for it. And Artemisia annua. I just recently came across it, and I was blown away about the properties of this particular product. And if it really is what I have heard in podcasts and scientists talking about, it is, then it's something that should scare the pharmaceutical companies, really, because that is a brilliant product, really brilliant product. Look it up. I will post a link in the description when I find the one that was the inspiration for me. But anyway, that is how I believe I have brought my PSA down. Exercise, supplement, food, fasting, no sugar, no carb, CBD oil, cold plunges. It's a big cocktail. Well, maybe I could take half of it away and it will still be the same result, because I don't know which part of it is actually the gold in it. But I'm doing healthy things, so I can tell you that I'm at this point in time, if it was not for the cancer, I am feeling better, more invigorated, more full of energy, and more happy than I've been for 25 years. And I'm not saying I've been unhappy, but I've lost weight on carnivore diet as well. I've never been down to 91 kilos, which I am at right now, since I was 28, 27, since my daughter was born. So something is good, no matter what is bad, something is really good. Hope you can use that for something, and until next time, stay healthy.